Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
This might just be the last time this series races on this version of Zandvoort. iRacing has announced a new scan is coming soon, and the modern updates that were brought by Formula One will arrive with it. Tricky, narrow, and technical, this Dutch circuit will for sure be a challenge as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Max Verstappen may have made the Netherlands a big spot on the racing map, but many might not know about Zandvoort still. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old-school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. Well, Zandvoort, known for quite a few twists and turns around this track. Joey, I think track position is going to be a premium.
I agree with you. Track position will be huge here. With a technical, narrow racetrack comes limited passing opportunities around this 13-turn, 2.671-mile circuit. Probably your best one kicks off right away at turn 1, known as Tarzan, after the longest and biggest straightaway. Really, it's kind of a roller coaster from turn 2 all the way down through kind of turn 8, and then it starts to take a different shape of a slow technical racetrack. Also, keep an eye on that turn 11 and 12 chicane. You feel yourself getting in a little bit too deep. You see some possible passing opportunities. You can wind up in the gravel really easy there. And then, as always, the 2 final long sweeping corners to complete the lap here. Zandvoort, an incredible racetrack, no matter how you look at it.
Absolutely, and I'm excited for that new version. It has a lot more banking in a few corners, which will make it fun. But before we get to the racing, we should remind you that this series is brought to you by Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Game Changer Wealth, helping you become a game changer with wealth. Contact them today at GameChangerBR.com or 225-664-2565. Championship has shifted colors a little bit here because Tom Layton, with his second win in a row, has now jumped up into the lead over Andrew Chinichi, who faltered pretty significantly last round, only scored 8 points, and that puts him a little farther away. You don't want to let Tom Layton get away when it comes to points. We've seen what happens when you do that. Arnold Roper, though, with an excellent third last round, puts himself third in the points. And Cigar Dewan wasn't able to attend the second race, but the 2 that he has shown up for have both been second places, interestingly. So that's why he sits in the 4th position. From there on down, look at Rondeau and Michael Johnson. Very close fight with Michael Ost as well. Just 3 points between those 3 for 5th position. But Johnson not performing as well as I think he would have liked so far this season, considering he's our current reigning champion. We'll see if he can turn it around here now that we're going to be getting into the latter half pretty soon. From there on down, it continues to stay extremely tight in the lower parts of the top 10. So watch out for those getting shuffled around. Meanwhile, Joey, let's go over the race details for today.
Absolutely. We're looking at round 4 of 12 here at Zandvoort. Everyone is in that same car, the Porsche 911 GT3R, the 992 model, the newest GT3 car from Porsche. And as always, it's a 30-minute race. They're in the 30-minute qualifying that's taking place right now. And as always, a fixed setup. So that means it's up to each competitor to really understand the car underneath them and maximize their speed on the racetrack.
Oh, much to my surprise in this qualifying session, Chris Walsh has the provisional pole over Tom Layton, but it's not big margins. It's about 0.04 of a second right now between them. There you can see Chris working his way through the lap down into Sheavlock, another one of these rather banked corners, still on the old portion, but here's where it swings off into the newer part. This was rebuilt in the early 90s, and this is where all these sort of fiddly bits were added onto it.
And this is the slowest section of the racetrack and a little bit more technical. You have to be patient here, really learn to let the car roll. Also be patient with the front end and that throttle, because if you jump on the gas too soon, you might find yourself kind of crossed up coming out.
Down into Hans Ernst, the last chicane on the circuit to lead you out onto one of the more critical corners here through Kumo and then Ari Leyendijk. So kind of a double apexer in one swing, but not quite, as they come out onto that main straight. Kind of curious in these GT3 cars if that last turn is flat out or not.
Well, and if you're going to be following somebody through that last turn, Joe, you got to deal with the dirty air as well. So if it is flat out and right on the edge, if you're following somebody, it probably isn't.
That's a good point, and I'm sure that means that you want to try and get some space here in this qualifying session. Tom Layton has plenty around him. His quickest lap at 35.7, just needs the blink of an eye to try and catch up to that 104 and take that pole away. But with Chris not really being in the championship hunt here, I wonder if he won't be as concerned if he gets beat today. He'll come around to the front stretch. Let's see if this is going to be an improvement for him. And no, it will not be, unfortunately. So he'll carry on in the final 6 minutes. The one that's impressed me lately, Joey, is Cigar Dewan here. He's been steadily moving forward since last season, especially towards the end of last season. We saw him kind of re-arrive and make his name known, but he's qualified in the top 3, and while he is about 2/10 off, I'd say he's still in with a shot here.
Well, and also looking through the previous rounds, it looks like Cigar has 2 podium finishes. I do see a big fat goose egg in round number 2, but I think he wasn't there. And just going to be curious to see what kind of speed Cigar shows up with today. He's currently provisionally 3rd. Are we looking at another podium?
Possibly. I mean, if he can move up 1 spot, he'll get the same position 3 times in a row. And you're right, he was not able to be there for the second race, unfortunately. So that's why he had that 0. If drivers do show up, no matter what, they get points. Even if they DNF, they'll get a single point. If they finish 10th or below, they get 2 points. So interesting system that they have here, but definitely rewards at least arriving for the race, even if you don't do well, so that you get something out of it. Thought I saw somebody just jump up. I think that was BJ Fulton, who moved himself into 4th.
What I'm seeing also, Joe, these cars, these Porsche GT3 cars, they are handling the curbs extremely well. It's always what you want to see out of a race car is the good shock and spring package. I know that everybody's on the fixed setup, but it's got to be confidence inspiring, being able to attack the curbs.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, he's coming into pit lane. Now, this is not unheard of in qualifying. Remember, fixed setup, so if you get out of the car, it will put all the fuel back into it. So these drivers will often go in, take tires, and get back out with lighter fuel and better rubber towards the end of the qualifying session to see if they can jump anybody with a blistering lap. But we switch over. In the meantime, a little bit farther down here, I think this is BJ Fulton that we're following in this gray number 82. He does appear to be on a quick lap. He's showing improved by 2/10 so far.
If he's able to jump up, I'm not sure if 2/10 is going to be able to get him in front of Cigar, but it's right on the limit as he powers out of that turn 11 and 12 chicane. You see the brake lights going on into this first sweeping right-hander, but this is really where it matters. Trying to stay on the throttle as much as you can as you come out onto the front straightaway.
Still showing about 1 to 2/10, so I don't think he's going to do it, but he does improve 136.255. He now needs to catch up by only 0.234 of a second, so improved by just a couple hundredths potentially there. Still, he is on an upswing. Anybody else going to take tires here at the end of this session? I'm sure it would pay good dividends, because right now track temperatures that are 101 Fahrenheit.
That's an excellent point too, is that the new rubber, it handles those temperatures better, because when you're on the older stuff, it tends to overheat quicker. So yeah, getting the new fresh tires on, not only is it good for the driver to go out there on the fast stuff, but it's also good for the car, good for the grip level.
You know, you were mentioning earlier that we're literally right next to the sea here, and you could see the wind is up to 13, 14 miles an hour. So that could also play a part in the handling throughout this race.
That's another great point. Yes, I agree. And with the 2 different sides to this circuit, going to have to pay attention to the wind. I think it'll affect them more coming out onto that final corner, the really, really fast end of the track.
Yeah, because that's the part that is closest along the beach there. So probably going to be feeling that a little bit more. Tom Layton's last lap, again, not an improvement, but he is going to carry on. Chris Walsh is back out there, but we saw him park the car, so he's probably got full fuel once again. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go any quicker. He may have made himself vulnerable, as now we check in on Michael Johnson, who sits down in 7th.
I think what Michael Johnson's going to be doing is setting up for his final lap right here. Yeah, you see him off of the gas right here, just kind of doing a little bit of a mental reset, get in the attack mode and start this lap.
Johnson coming out of Lyondike now onto the main straight, getting down on the power and trying to start one final flyer. Yeah, because this is going to be his last one. He crossed with less than 135 left to go, so he won't be able to get any more after this as he comes around through Tarzan. Not showing him track and improve through these first couple corners, but maybe it's later in the lap where he has something to make up for. As we come back to him now through Hugen Holtz, that's one of those corners that has been changed. If you're curious why it looks different from what you saw Formula One show the last few years. And then it's up over Slotemacher into Schivlock.
I am really excited about the update that you were talking about, bringing all of the new stuff from Zandvoort here to iRacing. It just brings a new character to it, and I think that this is kind of a hidden gem in iRacing. I don't think it's used very much, and when we get that new update, I think it will be.
I have to confess, I'm excited for the new one because I'm not a fan of this version of it. I love the idea that they put more banking in, kind of change the character of the track. I think that'll make it a lot more fun as Johnson comes around here to the chicane, the Hans Ernst chicane, down into what has become very much a stadium section now in present day. Tons of stands that they put up around here, and it is a sea of orange, but can he make a sea change here in the final bits of this lap and improve on that 7th place? I'm not thinking it's going to be, because he's still tracking about a 10th or 2 slower than his best lap.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you're right, just about a 10th or 2 slower. Very similar in pace, but just not quite going to improve. I'm looking probably Cigar de Juan. Remember that number 501 car? He was one that came in late, put the fresh tires on. His previous lap was right on top of his fastest, but he was able to cross the line, get this one in to count as well.
And he's still at about a 10th. He was up by 3/10 before, takes it in deep. I'm not sure if that's the way to go through there. And yeah, he loses a lot of time coming off.
You called it, just in too fast, and it cost him on the exit. But you're right, he was up, and unfortunately, I think it just slipped through his fingers.
Can he do anything here in this last bit to try and make up for it? It doesn't look like it, although it was a decent exit. Crosses the line, 36 flat. It's an improvement, but he stays in 3rd. And from there, I don't know if we have anybody left that can complete a lap. Doesn't look to be. I think Dylan Scott might be able to come through, but he's showing half a second down.
Sometimes it's just getting the practice in, and I think that's what Dylan Scott is doing. You have the whole timer there. Might as well practice, use those turns up. And the other thing that I would probably do right now, Joe, if you know this isn't a heater, practice pit entry.
That's a good point. Now, they don't have pit stops in this series normally, but if you find yourself in a situation where you do need to make an emergency pit entry, probably good to have that practice, and he does exactly that, which means it is time to go through the starting grid of today's field of 17 cars. So decent amount showing up here today, and Chris Walsh is going to be on the pole for this one, as Tom Layton will be starting next to him, and Cigar de Juan will be in 3rd. Then it is BJ Fulton in the 4th position, followed by Chad Duncan in P5, and AJ Roper, maybe struggling a little bit this time in his qualifying, only 6th today. Michael Johnson will be on the inside of row 4 with Gabe Zamora next to him, and then row 5 will be Mark Rondeau 9th and Dylan Scott in 10th.
In 11th place, we have Michael Bolton in the number 127. Alongside him is going to be Jeff Shulam on row number 6. Satakal Kalsa in 13th place. Mark Bray in 14th. John Momeyer in 15th. Dustin Heindel 16th. And Larry Haas rounding out the 17 cars we have tonight.
Going to be a rolling start in this series, so drivers getting ready for that. Now, okay, I'm seeing one of the weirdest glitches I think I've ever seen. The cars are gridding up on the backstretch to Hans Ernst, but the pace car is on the front stretch. I've never seen this before.
I agree with you. Well, Joe, I think we're about to find out.
Yeah, someone submit a bug report. There it is. Very lonesome. I had my camera on it initially, and I saw cars gridded up on my timing screen, but nobody was appearing. I thought maybe I was missing them, out on track, but no, they were just on the other half of it here. They're probably just as confused as we are right now.
Yeah, and not to bring any worries to up, but I wonder what's going to happen when that pace car rolls. Does the field catch up to the pace car, or does it let it pass the field?
I mean, that's a good question. Okay, they're going now, and so is the pace car.
I think this is the right call. I think this is the. However, I wonder they shouldn't get the green flag with the pace car still out there.
Possibly. We'll see what happens. I have no idea how the sim is going to handle this. I've seen lots of things and kind of know what to expect sometimes, but this one I'm not sure. It looks like they're trying to play catch up, I think, because they are going at a pretty good rate of knots here around the track. And it doesn't look like, the green flag isn't coming out here. So they actually have to do essentially a lap and a half of pacing instead of one lap.
This was the right call in terms of what to do on the racetrack. Sometimes you got to make those quick thinking on your feet calls and just go catch up to the pace car. I'm happy that everybody seems to be on the same page, though.
Good news is pace car is moving at only 40 miles an hour because the pace speed, the pit lane speed here is pretty slow. So
it's a good warm-up lap. It's a fast warm-up.
Exactly. This is almost akin to Formula One's gridding lap, where they go around without the pace car, and it's up to the leader to try and decide the pace speed for them instead. But now they've caught up to it, and they'll slow back down to that speed. Checking to see if we lost anybody in that, though. And it looks like no. That was my other fear, is if they're going at a quick rate, somebody could slip up and lose the car trying to play catch up.
Yeah, the other one is the accordion effect catching the back of the field, but it looks like all of the drivers were heads up enough. They've got the tools like the black box turned on, so they can see when that pace car is coming up or when they are approaching the field, because last thing you want to do is go barreling into the back of somebody before the race even starts.
Oh, race control needs to get on the horn next time, let the pace car know that's not where it's supposed to be, and hopefully they'll have a little bit less to do here as we come around into the infield portion once again. I always found these pairs of hairpins to be super frustrating in just about every car.
Yes. They are long, they're slow, so that means you just have to have incredible patience throughout the entire thing. You can't just yank the wheel into it. You got to let the front end roll, and then coming out, you got to be patient with the throttle too, because if you just step on the gas, oftentimes you'll get wheel spin. You got to remember, these cars, 4.2 liter flat six, over 550 horsepower, so they got plenty of throttle to spin them up. Even though they do have traction control and all of those aids, it's easy to get loose if you kind of abuse that throttle pedal.
Oh, especially with that engine so close to the rear of the car that I'm sure that pendulum effect is ever present here in these Porsches, as they're known for. And here we go. We're going to get ready to take off in just 2 corners time. Everybody's itching and ready to take off. But can Chris Walsh hold on to that lead down into Tarzan, or will Tom Layton immediately pounce and take it away? As we said, track position going to be incredibly important at this track. So we'll probably see some eager moves into the first turn to try and get that away and put themselves into some clearer air, if not completely clear air. Pace car onto the front stretch. Takes a while to get to that pit entry, though, as there he heads in. Control given over to Walsh, and there is the green flag. It's not a good jump for him, as Layton is already on his outside coming up to the corner. Remember, it's quite a bit of banking on that outside line. Can he make good use of it?
And it is still side by side between Layton and Walsh. Looks like Walsh is going to edge him out as we head down into the turn number 2 and 3 complex. This, I feel, is really where Zandvoort has its character.
Dylan Scott, the only one that had some serious problems there. He got turned around, fell back to last place through the first turn. We'll check on that in a little bit. Meanwhile, up the hill, Walsh leads. Layton, Dewan still in that third spot with BJ Fulton trying to chase them back down as they now swing through Shevelock.
Kind of the top three, a little bit of a breakaway before you get to BJ Fulton back there, and now is coming up to that section of the racetrack we were just talking about, this very slow, long, tedious corners.
Yep, and as they head through there, look at the different lines, many of them taking, trying to figure out what's the best way to try and tackle these two. Tell you what, back there in fourth, Fulton might be under attack as AJ Roper is climbing all over that rear wing.
Sometimes it's a matter of which cars get those tires up to temperature and who's a little bit more comfortable with the car moving around underneath them on the colder tires. And sometimes looks like AJ Roper's getting up to speed a little bit quicker, although BJ Fulton now at the end of lap 1 starting to close it back in on Dewan.
Reacting, getting his tires up to temperature as well and trying to close in that gap that he had lost. It wasn't major, but it was enough that he had to make sure he kept touch. Good run by AJ Roper there coming off of the final corner, but not good enough as he runs out of straightaway by the time they hit Tarzan.
Joe, I think tonight it's really going to be about racing the racetrack. It's a lot of single file, a lot of waiting for somebody to make a mistake in front of you. So as long as you can stay on top of your race, don't make those mistakes, you should be okay.
Yeah, most of the drivers not really seeing much improvement. The most we've seen is Justin Heindel is up 4 positions from where he began. But otherwise, top 4 are exactly where they started this race. And does look like that 4th position, Fulton once again losing a little bit early on this lap.
And I'm curious because Tom Layton up here, I know that you mentioned he's not necessarily in the championship per se, but, oh, I'm sorry, Tom is in the championship. It's Chris Walsh that's not in the championship up there. And Chris is up there leading that race. I was just getting my podium statistics a little confused over here.
Yeah, it's Tom that's actually taken a championship the previous the one before last, I should say. And then last time out, he got beat by Michael Johnson due to a lack of attendance and a few bad races that came back and bit him. So he's trying to make up for that, having been on the podium in every single round so far. A third, a first, and a first. Just needs to knock off that second position marker, although I'm sure he wouldn't be too disappointed if he wound up in first anyways.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, and uh-oh. Looks like a problem with the number 15, this Dustin Heindel coming out of the final turn. Usually you see a car off there, Joe, it's usually understeer just from that final fast sweeping corner.
He's going to go defensive on Dylan Scott, which, speaking of which, and we got a problem for Larry Haas as well, who loses it under braking. He's also got some damage. Not sure if that's related to Heindel's incident, but I believe, since things do look like they've somewhat calmed down, I wonder if we have a replay on Dylan Scott's opening lap incident. Then maybe we could also take a look at what happened to Heindel there on this most recent lap. So here's the replay. That's 3 wide into the first corner. No wonder it went south, and he turns in, discovers there's a car low.
It's tough. We mentioned how narrow this racetrack is, and you put everybody stacked on top of each other in turn 1. Not many places to go when it does go wrong.
This is through Shevelock, so it was unrelated, it looks like, to the other incident. Comes back on. Oh, no, maybe that wasn't the one. So initially it looks like Haas had a problem, and then, well, usually this series has 4 Drink Friday, but I think he may have sped that up and has made that a Monday thing.
Well, you know, I can also relate to that. I got 2 golden retrievers that love to jump in the sim, so it also could be a variable.
And then as we were watching those replays, looks like that was the 07.
Yeah, that was AJ Roper. Remember, he was on the back of BJ Fulton there inside of the top 5.
So that has cost him dearly. He's down in 12th now, so many positions lost for him. That bumps up a number of drivers. Michael Johnson now up in his 6th, Rondeau to 7th. How about Shulam and Kalsa? Both up 4 positions from the start now because of that.
Taking advantage on the racetrack when it's given to you. Sometimes that's exactly what you have to do at a technical place here. And The other one that I'm noticing, look at this little battle here. It's a little bit further back, but this is a nice 3-pack coming up through this roller coaster section. Dive it down now into this turn 8, 9, 10 complex.
Yeah, that's Kalsa leading Bolton and Zamora right now. So this is the battle for ninth. Good run off the corner by Gabe. Takes a little bit of a peek left and then right, but neither of them produce the position. Goes for another good exit off the corner. Gets the launch. Bolton, will he defend? He does, just slightly off the racing line. And nobody goes for the move anyways, although Bolton's deep.
Yeah, you said it. Bolton got in there super deep. A little bit of a chain reaction, but thankfully Zamora was able to get on the brakes as well, avoid what any big contact there was.
Still, it looks like on the corner exit, Zamora continually just getting the launch, but this is where he really needs it here onto the main straight. I don't think he's got it, unfortunately.
Not only do you need the good launch, but you need this straightaway to be about a quarter of a mile longer. I think that's the frustrating part of it.
A lot of curb there on the inside for Michael Bolton. He's lucky he did not spin the car. I know you said it looks like these cars are good with the curbs here, but there's some really drastically steep ones.
The car is very good on the curbs. It is up to the driver, though, to still be nice and approach those curbs at an appropriate manner.
Well, he's done well enough because now he's gone from defense to attack with Sadakal here in front of him, but he runs out of straightaway there before they get into Sheavlock and can't quite make the move. Still, he's going to be close behind him as he breaks deep down into Masters and now looks around the outside. That's going to open the door as well as they almost bang doors between them. And Bolton still hangs on around the outside. I'm surprised that Zamora wasn't able to try and get his nose in there. It switches back, and that's going to give Bolton ninth.
Yeah, you saw Kalsa just really hung out to dry on the outside of the racetrack. Now on the preferred line going into this 11 and 12 chicane complex. But even then, Zamora, pokes the nose, and it looks like Kalsa's starting to struggle a little bit. This is even drawing up AJ Roper.
I was just going to say, guess who's there now? AJ has watched this battle with interest and has used this opportunity to really gain a ton of time. But now that he's caught them, he's got to figure out how to go by.
It is tough to pass here. This is probably your best opportunity into turn one, but you see the cars really equal distant apart from each other. And when you're that far back, man, you got to hope and pray if you're going to send it down the inside.
I think you mentioned it earlier, just trying to stay patient, waiting for mistakes from the cars in front of you, kind of the method of the day here. And we at least got a couple there where now Bolton has managed to make good on it. But what will we see from Zamora or Roper? Oh, and there's another one as Kalsa, I think, maybe a little slow off the turn.
Yeah, maybe even dipped a tire on the exit, and Zamora's going to take full advantage of that cracked open door. Now we're going to see if AJ Roper, more problems there for Kalsa, almost drifted wide off of the racetrack. And sure enough, AJ Roper goes through. What a not good lap here for the number 5.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit rattled. He's now lost 3 positions in about a lap, and that's going to make him go from a gain of 4 down to just a gain of 1. So he's still a net positive, but it's becoming a rough day, and that tail is all over the place. I wonder if he ruined the rear tires a little bit.
In the sim, if you tend to overheat those tires, they stay overheated for a few corners. And if you don't realize that, they stay overheated for a few laps after that.
So that means our hard charger now goes to Jeff Shulam, who is up in 8th position, although he's kind of in no man's land. He's got nobody around him as we get a side-by-side between Dewan and Leighton. And Dewan might actually have this one as he got it up the inside through Tarzan. He'll have the inside into the next corner, but it's going to switch back around between Gerlach and Hugenholtz, and somehow he uses the banking to his advantage, and he's going to be able to completely pass. That was great stuff from the 501.
A little bit of a NASCAR around the outside there, and you're right, Cigar Dewan up into 2nd place. I had been watching this battle out of the corner of my eye, and Cigar really on top of his game today.
Excellent move. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Cigar has been incredible lately and just looked mighty fast. So he is back into that second place that he seems to like this season. Can he make it 3 out of 4? Or is he going to set off after Chris Walsh here?
And I'm curious about Tom Layton here, because if you look right behind, BJ Fulton is not very far. Is Layton struggling today? Is he going to continue to fall?
Yeah, I'd be very shocked if that's the case. Tom, usually incredibly fast. I know a few of the drivers were having a bit of a time making the transition from the Cup car that they raced last season to this GT3R that they're racing here. But most seem to have gotten a handle on it. Maybe it's just something about this track that doesn't click with the number one.
Well, also, you said yourself those high track temperatures, so you're going to have to pay attention to basically the moving track underneath you. A lot of things going on, even though it's a 30-minute race.
Behind him, Fulton's got his own problems, though. That's Jad Duncan in that yellow number 83 that's approaching. So he can't be fully committed to try and attack here. He's got to try and make sure not to leave the door open just in case Jad tries to send one up the inside.
The other thing that I'm seeing develop on the racetrack, Joe, as I look over at timing and scoring, there's actually a pretty decent fall off on the tires right now. So that could be what these drivers are dealing with.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, so many twisting corners around here in these high temperatures. Maybe they're finding that it's lacking grip very early as they come down through the back-to-back hairpins here into the infield. Duncan still right on the heels of BJ Fulton. Out of that second hairpin and down the back stretch towards the chicane. Keeps himself at arm's length, though. Jad's not going to have an answer yet.
A little bit too deep into that, but is able to tuck the nose nicely through turn 12, able to carry the momentum. I honestly thought Jad Duncan was going in there a little bit too fast, but ended up saving the car quite nicely, is able to stick on the back of BJ Fulton still.
I've always considered this a pretty difficult track, at least for me, but also for other drivers. And yet, I will say, halfway through this race, we've only lost one car so far, and that was actually due to internet connection and not a wreck. It was Mark Bray, who has been blinking quite a bit. Still have 16 of the 17 starters rolling.
So when you look at racetracks and safety, there's a lot of impact zones, and surprisingly around Zandvoort here, there's a lot more spins and kind of grassy areas. And you're right, we don't really have very much attrition going on.
Indeed, and this place still feels kind of old school to me, if you ask me, because I mean, look at how close some of the barriers are in some spots. They got a lot of runoff there through Shevelock, but then if you watch them coming down through Masters now, this is where it'll start to close up and it gets pretty narrow.
I agree with you, but it's all about the impact zones. Where do the cars fly off the racetrack? And if they fly off a racetrack in a specific area, make sure you got some safety areas out there. However, if they don't, it's okay to have the guardrails nice and close.
Yeah, that's a good point as we hop on board with Duncan now. Looking forward at Fulton into the braking downhill here. Very difficult to get the car turned in, and then look at the amount of banking through that second half of the chicane, launching them down towards Kumho. And here's where the track changes in the real world. They've added very, very steep banking through here where it's very much flat out all the way onto the main straight, and they pick up incredible speed trying to come down into Tarzan, but no dice for Jad quite yet. He is going to have to continue to stay patient in these final 15 minutes.
Even though he's kind of holding even here behind BJ Fulton, I was curious, is Layton going to continue to fall? And I don't think he is. You're right, Joe. He's very fast. He's consistent. BJ is continuing to hound him, but I'm impressed by Cigar Dewan. I mean, he is taken off from the number one car.
Yeah, he's about 1.7 seconds ahead right now, and there you see the gap between himself and Walsh in front of him, who is about 2.2 seconds away. Checking the lap times between them right now, and actually, I think Cigar Yeah, he's been faster at times. Now, the last lap, Walsh responded and was about a tenth faster. And there you can see the difference between them. But otherwise, look at lap 6 and lap 8. He's been kind of chipping away at times.
And I've also seen his name pop up in terms of the fast lap, the purple lap at a 136.41. So we'll have to keep an eye on this number 501. We're just past halfway and plenty within striking distance.
Indeed. So Chris is going to have to mind his P's and Q's here as they head into the latter half of this race. Dewan going to try his best to chase him down, continues to put distance between himself and Leighton. I said 1.7 earlier. It's now 2 seconds fully between the pair of them. So a very fast Cigar Dewan has a fire lit under him.
And it's not that Leighton is slowing down at all. You're right. It is Cigar just speeding up and putting on the afterburners and going to try to catch our leader. And looking at that last lap, it was pretty much identical to Chris Walsh.
Now, interestingly, I swore I recognized the name Chris Walsh, but apparently not. We had a Jim Walsh. I do not know if there's a relation there. But Chris, as far as I can tell, is a newcomer here to the sim side of things. Now, obviously, many of these drivers do race in the real world against each other. Porsche Owners Club does race out on the West Coast, down around California, Nevada, and various tracks in that region. So Chris perhaps is not new to these guys, but he's certainly making a splash for us here on the broadcast.
Sometimes it's practice laps, sometimes it's familiarity with the cars, and sometimes when you put a driver into a specific race car, things just seem to click, and right now things are clicking for Chris Walsh around Zandvoort.
But he's one of the few non-California club drivers out here. Hails from Club Carolina, interestingly. So we'll have to ask him if we get to chat with him, if that is where he's racing from. And if he does make a trip across the country to go race with these guys, and if he whoops up on them as much as he does here, because certainly looks like he is quite the talented driver as he starts yet another lap down into Tarzan. But he's responding a bit to Cigar. It's now back up to 2.3 seconds between them.
And looking around at Chris Walsh and the history, I believe that he does compete in some SRO GT4 America stuff, as well as some WRL in some Porsches and whatnot. So I think that you're looking at a very experienced driver.
Has he raced the GT4s this year? Because I may have called his races, actually, then, if he races for SRO. So looks like it certainly is good as taking one step up into GT3s, as the GT4s lack a few of the gadgets that these cars have, but are still their own handful. But Chris Walsh keeping Cigar Dewan from being able to make an attack here, and we're closing in on the final third of this race now.
Yes, 11 minutes remaining. And check out this battle here. This is still that AJ Roper caboose on this battle. This is, I believe, back here for the 9th place position between Bolton, Zamora, and AJ Roper.
Yeah, we still got a battle going on down here in the mid-pack between these drivers. This has been going on since pretty early in the race, although it does look like they have lost touch with, I think was it Shulam that was trying to get past them? No. I think it was Kalsa that they were fighting with.
Yes.
Kalsa's way back there. He has kind of lost the plot a little bit, but Bolton leads them. Zamora chases, and then AJ Roper is the caboose on the train.
Yeah, and I think that between these three, none of them have really shown any mistakes. So it's get up there, apply the pressure in the mirrors, try to do what you can to force a mistake.
Down the front stretch, a bit of weaving back and forth, trying to break that slipstream. But Bolton is not able to drop them. They are still clinging to the diffuser of that machine, making sure that he can't make any mistakes.
Through this fast, sweeping section of the racetrack that now has a lot more banking to it. It's just going to get faster with the update and accelerate up through the gears of that 6-speed transmission. Really let this thing sing.
Up and over the crest here. And the car dives down through Sheevlock. Very difficult corner to set it up for as it gets light just as you want to turn in. And then they switch through the quick flick of Masters. And Bolton once again showing that he is as cool as can be when he needs to be, keeping them behind. He's up 2 from where he started. Zamora and Roper have both lost positions. In fact, Roper, the most of them, down 5. We saw him spin it in that very corner that he just traversed there in that 07. And unfortunately, now that he's caught these guys, I asked whether or not he could overtake them. So far, he's kind of having trouble with that.
It's a tough mindset to be in, too, because remember, AJ was up inside the top 5 when he made that mistake that you were mentioning. So now he finds himself outside of the top 10, running a pace that he probably knows he can go faster, but he can't get around him.
Nope. And that might help, though. A bit of an off there for Zamora coming off the corner. He dipped his wheels into the dirt. That slows him down, but I don't think it's enough. Roper needed to be closer than that, and he misses a good opportunity.
What I am curious, and look at this. Zamora poor off of the corner as well, coming out of turn number 1, but this racetrack just so narrow. Roper showing the nose, not really anywhere to place it, though.
Like I said, very old school track, been around for a long, long time. I think it's close to 70 years now, and it's various guises and changes that it's seen. But they've tried to widen it in the most recent version that hopefully we'll be getting in about a season or 2 here on iRacing. And unfortunately for these guys, they don't have that extra room to help them. We've already seen a couple wheels off here at this stage of the race.
What's got me intrigued about this pack of 3, they are actually some of the fastest cars on the racetrack. They're not only closing in on Shulam in front of them, but they're faster than Mark Rondeau and Michael Johnson in 6th place. So this trio here on the move.
That is a little bit unexpected. So interesting stuff. I wonder if Bolton just maybe has a good enough pace that he's kind of pulling these 2 along and is helping them catch up to Shulam now. They've got 7 minutes to go and about 2 seconds to try and close down. I don't think that's impossible by any means. I think that Bolton has a realistic shot at trying to take that 8th place.
Yes, and you look at the hard data. Bolton is moving up positions. He's got the bit between his teeth. He's going forward. Well, Zamora and Roper, they've both fallen. That means they've had the speed in qualifying. They might just need the carrot in front of them to go chase somebody down.
Absolutely. Rondeau as well. You mentioned not that far up the road as well. So he could be under threat depending on just how much they have underneath them. As we head over Hoensrug, literally means Hoens Ridge in Dutch for these drivers. And then back into Sheevlock once again, down through the banked corner. Last lap for Bolton was a 38.3. Shulam ran a 38.6, 0.3 faster. At that rate, he should get to him in, I believe, about 6 laps. Actually, that might not be enough time.
Sometimes, though, all it is showing up in the mirror, and that can force a little bit of a change. The eyes can go somewhere where they don't necessarily need to go, and all of a sudden you miss a brake marker, you miss a shift. Sometimes it's just getting close that counts.
Indeed. So now it's down to 1.3, definitely cutting in on it. We're not missing anything up at the front. Don't worry. The top 3 have been staying equidistant apart for this second half of the race. And now as they cross the line, let's check and see what the lap times are between them. As Shulam gets ready to complete lap 15, he marks down a 38.7. Bolton, a 38.2, half a second quicker. He's turning up the pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, he's bringing his buddies with them because Zamora 38.1, AJ Roper 38.1. So these 3 are actually condensing as they catch Shulam.
Down into Hugenholtz once again. Can he get another half a second out of him? Because that would put him so much closer and maybe within range that he can start trying to shake him off the racing line a little bit as they come into Sheevlock once more. I think he dropped just a little bit of time compared to before. Maybe it's the second half of the lap that he's faster.
Well, it's also tough being in the position of Michael Bolton, because are you sure that Zamora is not going to attack from behind, that he's just kind of in line with you? You kind of have to play both sides.
That's a good point, yeah. Zamora might be thinking, as soon as you pounce, I'm going to try and snatch that up as well, because probably going to make yourself vulnerable when you go for that move. And he's been glued to the back of that yellow car for quite a few laps now. So you mentioned earlier about just waiting for the right moment and waiting for the mistake to happen. I wonder if that's what he's doing. He's got the Jaws theme playing in his mind.
And we're going to see what's happening with the big picture of in front of this pack. But we've been talking about Schulem, how Bolton is catching Schulem. Well, Rondeau, I think, is actually the cork in the bottle. A 39.1 out of Rondeau. Michael Bolton chasing this group down 38.3.
Yeah, so Schulem with that 38.3 and Bolton with a 38.3. So they matched each other that time. Wonder if Schulem's getting the hurry up either from his crew chief or himself, noticing that that yellow machine in his mirror is getting bigger and bigger. And
we should have about 3 laps left for these drivers. So there's still a handful of laps left to settle it out here.
Indeed. I think we're going to get the 2 to go for Walsh next time. Yeah, because we're under 3 minutes left and they're running 136s. So they're going to come around to that 2 to go marker themselves in a little bit of time. But up at the front, again, not much change between Walsh, Dewan, and Leighton. Leighton still hasn't, if it finishes as it is, Leighton still will have not gotten second place, and Dewan will have gotten nothing but second place.
I've been watching it out of the corner of my eye. You're right. Leighton is holding off Fulton and Duncan. They're only separated by about 3/4 of a second, not nearly as close as this battle.
Nope. So as we continue to watch this one, we now get the 2 to go from the flag stand. The battle for what will be, I think, about 7th position, continuing to close in ever so slightly. Here it is onto the main stretch. Now they get the 2 to go signal. Rondeau about 1.2 ahead of Schulem. This time Schulem couldn't match the pace of Michael, as Bolton has cut it down to 0.7 of a second.
It's going to come down to the last lap as they all kind of accordion together here. Can Rondeau continue to charge up at the front, or is it going to be this yellow car of Bolton making his way through?
Or what about AJ Roper? Let's not forget about him sitting back there. He's a little bit out of position from his mistake earlier on. And Kalsa, unfortunately, in a very odd position on the main straight. Wonder if he just went wide out of the final turn.
Yeah, that's what I would assume. Probably a few tank slappers and then flatten the front nose just a little bit. But back to this battle. Bolton all over Schulem now.
Oh, he has really caught him. This is the closest he's been all race long. Really piling on the pressure. Defensive move from Jeff Schulem shows he's feeling it, and he's having to respond to try and prevent any attacks from the 127. He'll only have to do it for about a lap and a half more, as the white flag is out for Walsh.
And really not very many passing opportunities past here. You got to defend probably down into turn 1, but it's all coming off of that turn 12 right there, which Schulem puts the power down very nicely, is able to escape away from Bolton just a little bit.
This is exactly where he needs it. Coming off of Lyondike, he needs to get the exit of his life, but he's a little bit off the apex there. All of them are, unfortunately, weaving down to the inside, trying to show himself. Michael Bolton hoping he can maybe scare Schulem a little bit, but he's not going to do it. Here goes Zamora down to the inside with a huge lunge, but it doesn't stick, and Roper gets into the back of him.
Yeah, I actually backed out of it once and realized it was just a little bit too deep. So that leaves Michael Bolton still to chase down Jeff Schulem. Only half a lap to do it.
Last call for everybody, and they know they've got to try and make a move if they want to get a dance. So looks like that may have been the only opportunity for Zamora, unless he gets something maybe down into Hans Ernst. Otherwise, this is going to be tough.
Yeah, but look at Zamora. He's already right on the back of Bolton. I would have thought it was going to be Bolton attacking Shulam, but it really is that black number 2 car. Look, all over the curbs.
A mistake from Bolton coming through Masters, and now he's wide through the next right-hander. Opens the door. Zamora sneaks through.
Excellent over-under from Zamora, and AJ Roper is now going to try to pull the same move.
Gabe was on the ball on that one. As soon as it happened, he pounced and he's through, but up at the front, Chris Walsh takes the victory in his first arrival in the Porsche Owners Club Series.
The guard Dewan, an excellent job giving chase, gonna finish second, his favorite position.
So at least Leighton continues his streak of podiums. Current championship defender Johnson only a 6th place. Rondeau will hold on to 7th. Shulam will hold on to 8th. But it is Zamora who managed to take some position on the last lap into 9th with a brilliant move.
Yeah, what a move. You called it. And I mean, it was them chasing down that pack the entire time. I thought for sure it was going to be Bolton on Shulam, but it did end up being Zamora, given the pressure to Bolton, just kind of like how we were talking about there with about 10 minutes remaining.
So as Chris Walsh takes his victory lap, we're going to take a short break, but the show is not over. We'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews coming your way.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Zandvoort here for round 4 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And it looks like Chris Walsh is going to come in and take a victory on his first try here in the Porsche Owners Club over Cigar Dewan, who, though he hasn't been able to take second place in every race, he has in every race he's attended. Tom Leighton finished 3rd behind him. We'll see if he's concerned about missing out on pace this week, because certainly didn't look as quick, but he still gets a podium on a bad day, which tells you how good he is. BJ Fulton was 4th as Jad Duncan was P5. Then it was Michael Johnson in 6, Mark Rondeau finishing P7, and Jeff Shulam climbing up 4 positions for a well-earned 8th. Gabe Zamora with some great racing there at the end, getting himself a 9th, and Michael Bolton rounding out your top 10.
Then we have AJ Roper, unfortunately had that spin, ends up in 11th place. Dylan Scott in 12th, John Momeyer in 13th, Dustin Heindel finishing 14th. So Takal Khalsa, a lot of problems on the racetrack today, probably wants to forget this one in 15th place. Larry Haas in 16th, and then the only DNF today, Mark Bray.
Looks like we've got our second place finisher ready to talk to us, Cigar Dewan, taking his 3rd second place out of 4 races so far this season. Cigar, do you have a thing for silver? Because you seem to like that second place position.
Yeah, I guess that's just where I'm meant to be, I guess. Somebody always finds a way to be just that little bit faster.
Yeah, I'm sure a little bit frustrating, but I have to say we were impressed with your battle with Tom today. You managed to make a pass that took multiple corners to make stick, and moreover than that, you did it around the outside.
Yeah, I think when, I thought I had it when I faked that dive down the inside, and really it was a dive, and I think Tom saw it coming and left me the room. I thought I had it done, but we had a little bit of contact, and I just naturally tend to back off if I think I've spun the other car. And so I backed off a little bit. And so we came out of turn one basically side by side, because when I saw that he wasn't off track, I was like, oh no, I gotta go. And so I stomped on the gas again, and then we went side by side through like a really tight turn, I don't know, 4 before the carousel again. And yeah, I mean, you can go around the outside on the carousel as long as the driver inside is someone like Tom that knows how to keep the car in check.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of respect there. You've been having a phenomenal season here. This most recent second place will do you no harm, I'm sure. With the drop weeks, the one that you missed will help. Do you have any others that you're looking at that you're going to have to miss, or are you going to be able to really stay in this fight?
I'll try to stay as much as I can. I do end up traveling quite a bit, so no real guarantees, really. I think I might miss some more, but I'll try to minimize.
Well, we'll look forward to it. Again, congratulations. Impressive consistency.
Thank you.
Cigar to one in second. Finishing behind, Chris Walsh, and I believe Joey Atterbury has caught up with our winner.
Well, Chris, impressive race today, pole position and the win. Congrats.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, talk to me about it, because it seemed like you were pretty much on cruise control while everybody else was struggling to keep pace.
Yeah, in qualifying, this track is so abrasive on the tire. Like, it really, the pressure in the tire just climbs to the roof. So you really got to like nail the one lap, because you really won't get 2 shots at it. So I was struggling to get that, but I did enough, I guess, barely enough to hold pole. But in the race, the same kind of concept. I was just trying to really keep the tire underneath me, because I knew by the end of the race, I think my left sides were down to 52% or something like that. So I knew that they're just, the tire was going to fall off pretty quickly. And so you really just had to keep it underneath you and not drive into the electronics too much and spin the car somewhere.
Well, it seemed like you were able to manage everything quite nicely, and we were doing a little bit of digging over here. We're always curious to see who the competitors are, and seems like you've got quite a bit of real-world experience out there between SRO stuff and some other forms of racing. Tell us about what you race.
Yeah, yep. I've been running SRO the last few years. This year was we did about a half a calendar in the GT4 series, and the Porsche came in, and then I've kind of dabbled in a bunch of things. This year I've got to do some Baja racing. I did my first oval event, and I'm hoping to make my step up into Lamborghini Super Trofeo here in the last couple of rounds for IMSA. So yeah, it's been a good year for racing outside the simulator.
Well, I know I got to ask, because I'm sure that Joe is wondering behind the scenes here. You're going to be at Road America out there with SRO.
I will not, unfortunately, unless something changes in the next week or so and someone's looking for a driver. But right now, not planning on being at that one.
Well, make sure to keep an eye, or I should say an ear, up to the speakers and some TV coverage, because I know that Joe Peak is doing a lot of the SRO stuff, and he's become kind of a fan of you over here, and especially taking the win here today. So congrats once again on the win today at Zandvoort, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was Chris Walsh coming home with the win today.
And behind them, it was Tom Layton finishing third, but should still be in the points lead after this one. Tom, a bit surprised at the pace. We thought maybe you'd have a little bit more for it. Were you struggling out there, or what were your thoughts on how this race went?
Yeah, I mean, my qualifying pace, I was pretty close. I don't know how much more Chris had in the tank, but I think my optimal was a couple tenths higher, and just couldn't pull that off. And then I thought it started out pretty well, but then the tires started getting really hot. Everybody during the race was complaining about tire temperatures, and I wasn't very confident in the car. I'm just losing like a couple tenths here, a couple tenths there, and it just really starts to add up. So I didn't have a lot of chance to practice this week, and it really showed.
That does explain a few things. So did you not fight Cigar too hard for that position then, or were you really trying to keep him behind? Because he seemed to have a lot of respect for how you race and was complimenting you, but we were still pretty impressed with him making that move around the outside.
Yeah, I was just dumb going into turn 1, and I didn't defend far enough to the inside. So I guess I left the cars with, and I didn't think he was going to take it, but he took it. And he had a little bit of pace on me. I could tell he was gonna get me, I think. So yeah, we had some good side by side there for a few turns, but yeah, he got me. It was just it's a lesson learned for me, I think.
I can understand, but I mean, that might be a lesson that helps towards the next race, because similar track in Sonoma. Do you think you'll be able to pick up the pace and return to the top step next time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I like Sonoma a lot. I think I know it pretty well, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, still, congratulations. Every race on the podium so far this season, I'd say that's not too shabby.
All right, thanks, guys.
Tom Layton, third place here today. And that is going to wrap us up. So once again, we want to thank the sponsors before we go, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Game Changer Wealth, helping you become a game changer with wealth. Contact them today at GameChangerBR.com or at 225-664-2565. Thanks to the team today, Joey, Zach, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next time is going to be at Sonoma, Monday, August 21st at 11 p.m. Eastern. And be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. So until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.